Hey everyone, David Aragona here for another edition of the TimeformUS Road to the Derby series. The focus this week is down in Florida, Oldsmar, Florida, for the Tampa Bay Derby, Grade 3 event, going a mile and a 16th for the 3-year-olds. 50 Kentucky Derby qualifying points on the line for the winner of this race. Let's throw up the field of 12 runners signed on for this Tampa Bay Derby, and we will have a clearly defined favorite here in the number 6, Tapit Trice. This is a horse that Brad Free and I have been talking about quite a bit on our DRF Derby watch. I think he is in our top 5 contenders on that race as far as my early odds go, and he is expected to be the heavy favorite in this Tampa Bay Derby as he tries to accrue some Kentucky Derby qualifying points at this moment in time. He has 0, but he is towards the top of many people's Kentucky Derby contenders lists. But still, 11 runners signed on to face this horse, including another horse from the Todd Pletcher stable. Let's see how these horses might sort themselves out on the front end by taking a look at the TimeformUS pace projector. And no surprise to see that fast pace indicator showing up, some of these new graphics that you can find in the new TimeformUS PPs that just launched on your DRF mobile PPs and on DRF desktop this week. When you're checking out your formulator PPs, you can also click over to the new TimeformUS PPs in the subsequent tab. But check out the number 8 Dreaming of Kona and the number 11 Zydeco. Both of those horses are shown towards the front end on the pace projector, and they were both contesting the pace last time out in the Sam F. Davis. The number 9 Sturkin is one of those Todd Pletcher trainees. He was also expected to be mixing it up on the front end. And the number 10, number 12, they also have done some of their best running on the lead. So this could be a pretty competitive pace, and that would certainly set things up for the number 6 Tapit Trice, who is shown in last place on the pace projector. So pace projector saying he could have to pass every horse in this field, but he definitely is one that has plenty of finishing speed. Let's also take a look at the TimeformUS finish projector, which you can also check out in those TimeformUS PPs that have recently launched. And the number 9 Sturkin is shown off in front of the number 6 Tapit Trice on the finish projector. A bit of a surprise there, since Sturkin was beaten pretty decisively by Tapit Trice in his prior start. But Sturkin did earn a nice speed figure on debut, so I think that is probably influencing this finish projector quite a bit, and only shows really 3 horses in the mix there, along with the number 11 Zydeco, who is a big price. We'll see if I agree with this when we get to my picks at the end, but I think there might be some other ways to look at this Tampa Bay Derby. So let's go through some of the contenders, and we'll begin with those 2 Todd Pletcher trainees, and we'll check out the allowance race that they both competed in last time at Gulfstream Park. That is Tapit Trice taking over at the top of the stretch here, and he will sail clear of his stablemate Sturkin as they run onto the wire. Tapit Trice will go on to win this race by 8 lengths, and this was the step forward that a lot of people were hoping and expecting to see in this 1-mile event at Gulfstream. This is a horse that had shown a lot of potential in his first couple of starts at Aqueduct, had overcome a slow start to be 3rd on debut, again broke slowly in his second start, but was able to beat a good horse that day in Slip Mahoney, and then took that step forward from a speed figure standpoint last time in that allowance race at Gulfstream Park to win going away at the end. He certainly has finished up like a horse that is going to relish stretching out around 2 turns, which he finally gets to do in this Tampa Bay Derby. The one concern with Tapit Trice is not the distance or the added ground. It is the fact that he has broken slowly in every start of his career. Even last time in that 1-mile race at Gulfstream Park, it can be kind of hard to see the starts because they show a head-on view of the race, but it's pretty clear that he broke behind the field once again, and that could be detrimental to him if he does that in a 12-horse field. But given that pace projector, he could find himself at the back of the pack anyway, because there is a lot of speed signed on both inside and outside of him in the starting gate. So we'll see how much ground Tapit Trice has to make up in this race, but he definitely is a runner that has shown plenty of potential in his first 3 starts. Moving on to his Todd Pletcher trained stablemate, the number 9 Sturkin. He finished well behind Tapit Trice in that allowance race last time, so why are you supposed to want him over his stablemate in this spot, especially given the pace scenario? He got to stalk a slow pace last time, broke much better than his stablemate, and still had no answer when that one ranged up outside of him at the top of the stretch. Sturkin had earned a higher TimeformUS speed figure in his career debut, getting a 107 that day, but that was a 7 furlong race, and maybe he's one that's not improving with added distance. Now he's got to get 2 turns for the first time, deal with speed drawn to his inside and outside. There are a lot of obstacles that are working against Sturkin in this race, and he's the second choice on the morning line. Perhaps you could find some value in playing against him. Let's move on to the local prep for this Tampa Bay Derby. It is the Sam F. Davis Stakes, and I believe we have 7 horses coming out of the Sam F. Davis that are back in this Tampa Bay Derby. Actually, I think it's 8 horses. A lot to talk about. We'll show the replay of that race. Included among those 8 are the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place finishers from the Sam F. Davis. You'll see them highlighted here in the shadow roll down towards the rail. That is Groveland in the Godolphin Silks. In the pink between horses, that's Classic Car Wash coming on to make a late run. And also highlighted towards the outside there was Classic Legacy. None of them could get close to the winner of this race, Litigate, at the end, and maybe that's an indictment of the entire field, because Litigate did not look that formidable on the way into the Sam F. Davis. The race did not get much of a speed figure. You can see we're looking at the PPs of the runner-up Groveland. He didn't even break into a triple-digit TimeformUS speed figure that day, just got a 99, upgraded a little bit from his 94 final time figure. It was just a slow race in general, so I think you have to look at the trips and decide if there are any horses that maybe were prevented from achieving their optimal result that you want out of that race, because anybody out of the Sam F. Davis that's going to have success in the Tampa Bay Derby needs to take a step forward and improve. I'm not sure that Groveland is that horse. He got a pretty good trip, all things considered, in that Sam F. Davis. Did have to pause briefly when trying to sneak through inside of the leader on the backstretch, but at the end of the day, he had a shot in the stretch and just couldn't really make up much ground on the winner. I would be more interested in the horse that finished right behind him, the number 2, Classic Car Wash. This is a horse that you might want to go back and watch his entire trip, because he had different spots of subtle trouble at multiple points in that Sam F. Davis. Kind of got squeezed back a little bit heading into the clubhouse turn, was rank at that point in the race, launched an early move on the backstretch to try to gain some position, but then ran into a bit of traffic at the half-mile pole, lost momentum there coming around the far turn, still was out of position at the top of the stretch, but was closing best of all at the very end to just get into 3rd, winning a photo for that show spot. And it's worth noting that he made up as much ground as he did, because February 11th, that day at Tampa Bay Downs, throughout the card, it did not seem like too many horses were having success closing from off the pace on the dirt. And really, that didn't happen too much in the Sam F. Davis. The winner did come from a stalking position, but really, horses that were as far back in the pack as Classic Car Wash were not having success. So I do want to upgrade his performance a little bit for making up as much ground as he did in that race. I liked his allowance victory 2 back, albeit on the synthetic surface at Gulfstream Park, and just think he's a Mark Casse trainee that still has some upside and might fly under the radar here as he comes back for another stakes event at Tampa Bay Downs. Let's move on to the similarly named Classic Legacy, who actually finished in a photo with Classic Car Wash in the Sam F. Davis last time. I thought he got a slightly better trip than Classic Car Wash, because while he was wider around the turns, he had more of an unencumbered run. He didn't have that stop and start. He wasn't stopping and starting at multiple points during his trip. Got to build up momentum around the far turn and basically sustain it through the late stages. Just kind of flattened out at the very end of that race. Wasn't finishing quite as strongly as Classic Car Wash. So I didn't want to upgrade him quite as much, even though he also did make up some ground from the back of the pack. The number 11 Zydeco was the horse that was setting the pace in that Sam F. Davis. And while the fractions are color-coded in red, you can see that in the TimeformUS PPs, I don't want to upgrade him for setting a fast pace, because he was the one that was kind of riding that track profile, hanging on at the end, because that's just the way the track was playing. It was carrying big prices and not allowing them to fade through the late stages of the races. So I have some doubts about how far this horse really wants to go. Yes, he ran a top TimeformUS speed figure going the mile in the 16th distance last time, but I have some doubts about the legitimacy of that performance. So I need to see it again from Zydeco, especially with so much other speed signed on in this race. The number 10 is Champion's Dream. He's another horse that was contesting the pace in the Sam F. Davis last time. Perhaps you can be a little more forgiving of his performance, though, while he finished far behind Zydeco. He had a lot of trouble heading into the clubhouse turn, got badly bounced around between horses, kind of got his hind end taken out from underneath him when a horse veered out into him heading into that clubhouse turn. So just seemed like he was a little discombobulated right from the start of that race, and he clearly did not put his best foot forward, not really running nearly as well as he did in any of his prior starts. I have some concerns about how far this horse wants to go in general. His prior attempts going the 1 mile distance around one turn at Aqueduct, he didn't finish those races as strongly as I would have wanted to see. And I just am not sure that he really is a Kentucky Derby prep kind of horse. I think he might ultimately be a better one-turn runner. So Champion's Dream is not for me, but I understand some people giving him a second look based on his trip last time out. Number 12 is Prairie Hawk, yet another horse coming out of that Sam F. Davis stakes. And he's a horse like Champion's Dream that finished pretty far back in the pack. He broke slowly that day, which I think was the reason that he found himself in the second half of the field in the early stages. He had showed much better tactical speed in his prior start, but when he broke slowly in an 11-horse field, he never really had the opportunity to try to get forward. He made a decent middle move on the backstretch to get into position, but I think that cost him towards the end because he really did fade in the second half of that race, especially after having to alter course in upper stretch. I think this horse is better than the result last time, but still the jury is out on his overall ability because he is pretty light on speed figures coming in here compared to some others. He's trained by Saffie Joseph, who has another horse in this race in the number 1, Lord Miles. Saffie Joseph's runners actually bookend this field. Lord Miles is another horse that's a little bit light on speed figures coming in here. He did achieve a stakes placing 2 back in that Mucho Macho Man, but that was a race that completely fell apart towards the end, featured a fast pace, and he was just kind of picking up the pieces. He tried a tougher field next time in the Holy Bull and really did not make much of an impact at all, and that Holy Bull was hardly among the toughest Derby preps that we've seen run anywhere. So I think Lord Miles is really going to have to step it up from an overall ability standpoint if he is going to be competitive in this Tampa Bay Derby. One more horse to take a look at, and we'll actually check out his replay, and that is the number 7, Freedom Road. And we're taking a look at a 6-furlong optional claiming race that he did win coming into this Tampa Bay Derby. And there aren't too many horses in this race coming off of victories outside of Tapit Trice. So I do want to highlight this horse because he was successful last time out, but he has a lot to prove. This race features some pace for him to close into, and he does well to run down the leader here, but he did try 2 turns, try a mile twice during his juvenile season, didn't really finish that strong either time, both the sapling at Monmouth and then going the 1-turn mile at Laurel in the Laurel Futurity bet last October. He's just going to have to get a little bit faster and prove that he really wants to go this far because based on pedigree, especially on the dam side, he just strikes me as one that might be more of a 1-turn horse. So let's throw out my picks for this Tampa Bay Derby. Really, there aren't too many horses that I have positive takes on here, and I do believe that the number 6 Tapit Trice will be very tough for this field to beat if he's able to break somewhat cleanly in this race. The problem is everybody's going to see that, and he's going to be a very short price in here. He's 8-5 on the morning line. I'm not going to be surprised if he's even money, potentially lower than that. So I wanted to search for another horse that might offer some kind of value, and for me, that's the number 2 Classic Car Wash. I thought that he ran the best race of anybody in the Sam F. Davis last time, and it was kind of a sneaky good race, and he might be one that is not bet down too heavily off that trip last time. So he's not the most likely winner, but I think he's going to offer better value than Tapit Trice. So I'm going to put the number 2 Classic Car Wash on top in the Tampa Bay Derby on Saturday at Tampa Bay Downs. Good luck if you're playing the races this weekend.